Hello. Let's have a quick discussion about what trade unions might do in relation to the termination of Elon Musk's employment in Doge. Um, if you're not aware, there was a dude. Well, honestly, we are talking about a legal system that's not Australian, so it is a bit, you know, out of turn. But we're going to hazard a bit of a guess here. Um, the There was a video, right, yesterday. Apparently, some guys got together and um, they call it the American Supreme Court or something with their chief justices or something, and they're like boss judges apparently. And their job seems to be to rule on constitutional matters. And they found that what Musk was doing with Doji was the doggy Department of Mean, was unconstitutional, and he got in big trouble. Um, we don't know if he's been removed from the building, or whatever, or his team's been removed from the building. But that seems like a likely outcome. It on the subject of that, for perhaps American citizens who were concerned of constitutional breaches leading to potential breaches in their privacy, would appear that the American court system has at least attempted to do the right thing there. So, okay, that's their system, and fair enough. Um, so, with that, Wes is an interesting question, though, and it's not that interesting, but we'll go through it anyway. About what that might mean, was Elon Musk's employment lawfully terminated at Doge, or the Office of Personnel Management, or more specifically, the cabinet of the president. Okay, so this one of the arguments seemed to have been that it was unconstitutional because Mr. Musk and his Doge team were acting as a sort of like a de facto cabinet, or he's acting like a cabinet member for the president. And as a member of his cabinet, there's certain types of rules that apply, including being vetted by Congress or the Senate or something. You'd have to ask the American constitutional lawyers that one. Just going by people's synopsises, don't actually know. It sounds like that means his employment as a cabinet member wasn't legal to begin with. So on that particular basis, he would have no case with the to get trade union representation as far as a what you might call unlawful termination of employment. So um, here's why this comes up. In an ordinary employment situation, in some jurisdictions, if you lose your job as a consequence of your political or religious beliefs, it's classified as discrimination and therefore unlawful termination. So, under equal opportunity or non-discriminatory practice laws, you're not allowed to lose your job because you're female, because you're male, because you're gay, because you're Muslim or Christian or atheist or whatever. Okay, you are allowed to have your own religious and political beliefs, and those are considered independent from your employment, and your employer is not allowed to discriminate against you on that basis, as long as you are not abusing the other staff member, customers, or your employer, and are exercising due diligence at your workplace and following all occupational health and safety laws, etc., etc. There is no cause for issue, and they're not allowed to even bring it up. Okay. So, obvious exceptions were going to be that in ordinary human behaviour, there will be discussions around the water cooler, and as long as it's kept civil, it's really no one's fucking business. That's basically the idea, okay? So, on the subject of Mr. Musk, he has expressed his political beliefs, okay? So, in a political context, specifically the inauguration of President Trump, he was quite vocal about grandstanding, taking centre stage, standing behind the presidential podium, and letting everyone know how he felt. His ass of fire went out to you, right? The public condemnation of that has been international. everything ranging from parliamentarians in multiple countries expressing outrage to the cancelling of Starlink contracts. Apparently, even Tesla showrooms have been burned down in the United States. The guy's lost $200 billion in less than 2 months. He's on track to be having the fastest economic fall out of any billionaire ever. Apparently, he was the world's richest man. He was on track to becoming the first trillionaire. Okay, get this, with $500 billion, $400 billion. He had $400 billion 2 months ago, and now he's got $200 billion or less. Okay, that's how widespread the public condemnation of that man's behaviour was, because it wasn't just about that salute; it was about a whole bunch of other things, and the combined effect has been just everyone's gone. All these other people just gone, "Wow, are you kidding?" And so, there's a bit of Antifa, Schadenfreude going on at the moment, because it was actually the case, and this was seen from other commenters from the USA, that they actually showed tweets that Mr. Musk had done, using his platform, as it turns out, to say that, to confirm that yes, it was a coup, among other things. Okay, as far as American politics is concerned, the awareness from this vantage point right now simply suggests that's a bit of a no-no. Okay, and he's gotten into trouble, and it's also seems quite likely that he might actually be a genuine Nazi too. In which case, so what? Not really too keen on Nazis. It's just a political opinion. You can't terminate my employment because you're not paying me. So anyway, and also you wouldn't be able to anyway, because it'd be in breach of equal opportunity laws. Okay, so you're not allowed to fire someone based on their political beliefs. So the president, ironically, followed the same guy that in Congress made a big speech saying how great it was that wokeness had been shut down in the USA. The stupid woke virus had been shut down, and diversity, equity, and inclusion had been stopped. Okay, like there's some acronym they call DEI in the USA, which don't actually know what it means beyond what the actual words are. If the words were taken on their own, it sounds like he's an absolute prick, because that sounds like what diversity, equity, and inclusion. So acknowledging that there's more people from more than one group, okay, attempting to have an equitable society, and sort of like not being a discriminatory arsehole. Okay, that's what those words actually mean if you take them on their own, right? So you go, okay, that sounds like the kind of attitude that leads to workplace laws that say you can't fire someone for being a Nazi or for being a socialist. Like if their personal opinions is Nazism or their personal opinions is socialism, you cannot terminate their employment. If they're exercising due diligence in their job, they're performing their workplace duties properly, they're not engaging in any criminal activities at work, and they wear their PPE and stuff like that, and they turn up for work and all the rest. Okay, you can't terminate their employment. Okay, that's called that's part of the equal opportunity principle. Interestingly enough, that could be represented by the acronym DEI as well. And the whole irony of the situation, he's done that without firing Elon Musk. But early on, they said he'd taken some generals out of the army, or he'd taken some taken some judges out or something, whatever it was they were saying, like when he first became inaugurated or something, whatever they call it, on the basis that they had different political opinions to him. And it was like, okay, so he didn't want to follow the principles of equal opportunity, or DEI, or whatever it's called. The actual policy of DEI in America might have had a completely different meaning, but on the surface, from this perspective, this is what it sounds like. Okay, you can't lose your job because you're gay, because you're black, or because you're Muslim, or because you're Christian, or whatever. Okay, you're allowed to have your own opinions. Just keep them at home. maybe be polite around the water cooler, do your job, don't muck up. Okay? Right, so, but Donald Trump, when he first gets elected, he fires some people who have different opinions to him. Was it in the hopes that, so something go wrong and there'll be a court hearing, an Article 3 or something or whatever, someone mentioned some of these articles or whatever, that he might not get into trouble because the judges might support him. Well, in that case, that Chief Justice John Roberts sounds like a fucking fantastic human being because he's done that anyway. It's like, okay, fine. And he's effectively terminated Elon Musk's employment. And on the basis that he broke the law. And the law that he broke was the highest law in the land, the Constitution. So, okay then. In that case, in that situation, there's no grounds for unfair dismissal. Okay, there is grounds for saying that Donald Trump actually broke the law because he had a void contract. Okay, so his contract with Elon Musk wasn't legal to begin with. Okay, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court just ruled that it was not a legal contract. Doji shouldn't be doing that stuff in the first place. Elon Musk was not supposed to be part of his cabinet. Blah blah blah. He wasn't properly vetted. Whatever their system says. Okay, and for Donald Trump to have that man there in the first place and not follow those procedures means Donald Trump has also broken the Constitution. He's broken the law too. Okay, and any contracts with the Doji employees or whatever in that staffing or the main department or whatever it was called, okay, are unlawful contracts. And their boss were hiring that because he was supposed to be a fake cabinet member type scenario or a cabinet member but wasn't properly vetted or however it works, and personally appointed by Mr. Trump basically. Okay, that means Mr. Trump is the one that's done hiring. Yeah. And he has broken the law, the Constitution, by doing so. And so by apportioning, was it $4 or $8 million a day towards the Doji department for them to do whatever it was they were doing, of taxpayer money in the USA, okay, he has engaged in unlawful contracting, and that means, does that mean as breaching of the Constitution that that Doji department was receiving funds as proceeds of crime? Is it possible for the US government or the Congress or the Senate or whatever to make reparations or recoveries of those funds and return it back to the American taxpayer? And if so, because Donald Trump was the one who did the illegal hiring of Elon Musk in the first place, could he be fined for that, for engaging in unlawful contracting? We'll soon see, because the basic synopsis is that the highest court in the land in the USA has ruled that he shouldn't have been employed doing that in the first place. It was not a legal employment to begin with. So on the subject of would the trade unions support the unfair dismissal of Elon Musk in the termination of his employment as potentially a direct consequence of neo-Nazi or Nazi-like behaviour, or we'll just call it straight up Nazi behaviour, given the circumstances, no, he wasn't being discriminated against on the basis of his religious or political beliefs. And even if he were, the Commander-in-Chief, Mr. Trump, does not believe in diversity, equity, inclusion. So that means anyone who works for the US government can now be terminated of their employment on the basis of their political beliefs. So if they express support for, say, MAGA or the KKK or the Proud Boys or perhaps the AFD or Elon Musk, Donald Trump, the tech bro billionaires maybe, the incels or whatever, perhaps now their employment can be terminated and lost without any unfair dismissal charges or claims being made later on. And that also includes Donald Trump. It may be the case that he can lose his job without having the right to what's called an unfair dismissal case, but on the basis of his political beliefs. Without DEI, surely, as an employee of the US taxpayer, he doesn't have the right to his political and religious beliefs. Have a nice day.